Hi, everybody. It is time for another edition of Is Anybody Reading This? They post where I talk about the comic books that I'm reading now, and some new ones as well. So I think I'm going to keep up with the theme that I established last time as far as just giving you 5 comics that I'm really excited about right now, and some of the new ones that I'm reading, new number ones. It's extremely hot here. It's like 90 degrees. So the best thing to do today is stay inside and read some comic books, right? Stay in the AC. So here are some suggestions for you. First, I am number 5 is American Gods. This is that Neil Gaiman series, which is a TV show too, and I'm not watching the TV show, and I haven't read the book. But I really like what they're doing with the comic book. It almost makes me want to read the book. But there's just something, if you're a comic book fan, there's just something about a graphic novel, about this medium with words and pictures being put together that just, it either speaks to you or it doesn't. The main character in here is a guy named Shadow, who is basically working for a god, it seems, who is taking him across America, and he's learning about all these different types of gods. Some new, some old. And it's interesting because it's sort of like the gods are only as powerful as the belief system in them. So, I don't know. I haven't read the book, so don't spoil it for me, but I sort of was thinking, well, maybe at some point if they run into Christian God, or Allah, somebody who still seems to have a lot of influence on what goes on in the world. As far as belief systems go, how powerful a character like that would seem in this comic. A lot of the ones that they're showing so far, seem very minor gods, very specific abilities. You wouldn't necessarily sacrifice a virgin for them or leave them a basket of fruit, But the art can't be beat, and it has such a great dreamy quality to it. At some point this could all just be a dream. And maybe that will be satisfying. Maybe it won't. I am not sure. But I'm enjoying that. The next one, number 4, we're going to call this number 4, is this comic, Redline. Is anybody reading this? Redline, Oni Press. A lot of good stuff has been coming out at Oni Press now. And this comic, I'm not sure if this is the last issue or not. It said the end at the end. So I hope not. And it does seem a little rushed in the end. They were doing this great world building as far as a military presence on Mars. And what it was like for just, some of the regular Joes to be part of that. So I hope it's not the last issue, but it might be the last issue. I've loved the run. Maybe there'll be a volume 2 or something. I don't know. Maybe they're just taking a break. But it's been fun. It's a little ribald, which I like. So, every so often you might see a butt or a boob. And people just say all kinds of words. So, words. What are words for? Number 3, we're going to say this time, is Regression. Regression is written by Colin Bunn, one of my favorite writers. Maybe my favorite writer right now. I think I read just about everything that I see that he does. And Regression is fun because it seems that Colin Bunn's father in real life was a hypnotist. And hypnosis plays a big part in this storyline. It's basically about a man who was hypnotized through a regression. And he may have pulled something back into the present with him. It's very gross looking on the inside. So if you like pictures of people like with bugs and maggots and centipedes coming out of their noses and mouths and things like that, this is the book for you. Overall, I'm really enjoying it. This issue itself was a little bit filler. Some things have happened previously. I don't want to give it all away. And this is the issue where basically everyone's trying to figure out whether what they experienced was real, actually happened, or just their imagination or part of their regression that they went through. So definitely a good book to pick up and read and go through your own little regressions. What are we on? Number 2. Guess what? It's Bane Conquest. Yes, Bane Conquest. Yes, Bane. This has been really good. I like it a lot. It's a character piece, character study as far as I'm concerned. For Bane, a character that, on the surface, he's just kind of a muscly guy. He's a drug addict, right? He's a muscly drug addict. He needs the drugs to keep going. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But what's been interesting, especially in this issue, because you can see, we finally threw Batman in there because, it's issue 3 of 12. So how are we going to get this, off the shelves? And what was fun about this issue, there's two things that really stood out about this issue for me. One is the juxtaposition between Batman and Bane, and the questioning that the villain does to Batman about his motivations. Batman is the Dark Knight, right? And he uses fear as his weapon because he's not going to kill anybody. He's always trying to save people for the most part, but he doesn't seem to do that with villains. If he thinks somebody is bad, he thinks you deserve whatever you get, and he's not above using you. And that's part of what the villain kind of tries to get Batman to understand. It's sort of like he's the saint, this is the sinner. You justify everything that you do, but if somebody's a villain in your eye, they're just a villain in your eye, and if they die, you have no problem with that. To the extent that the villain even says to him, "You are in collusion with the bad guy. You don't mind using the bad guy to do all of your killing. So you kill. You just use him as your weapon. You allow him to go ahead and crush heads because that gives you, then you can validate it in your own existence as well. It wasn't me who pulled the trigger. It wasn't me who busted the head. It was Bane, and therefore I can do something to Bane then as a way of justifying my actions." That might be a bit much extrapolation on what they meant, but it was an interesting theme to kind of see, because in a way it's sort of like, are either one of these people wrong? It's just two different ways to try to get through the world. Bane needs his juice, and, he sees the world very simply as black and white. You're either strong or you're weak. He doesn't want to be weak, so he uses and does whatever he needs to in order to be strong. And there's been a lot of hints to his past and stuff like that have been interesting, as far as times when he did feel weak and why he might have this kind of mindset. So it's been a really good exploration. I've been really satisfied with this so far, and I took a chance on this. I'm not a big Bane fan to begin with, but I'm beginning to like him more and more, and I see lots of potential for him. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is that the villain is basically handicapped. And it's interesting to see how they treat him. There's no, because he's also an evil super genius too, as most handicapped people are, I assume. I don't know, but it's interesting that there's no sort of special treatment of this person who, once they reveal, they find him and they reveal him as a handicapped being, they treat him like they would any other villain, they treat him badly. And I thought that was an interesting a thought to have, I guess. I don't want to give it away, but there's some things that happen in this issue that in ways that Batman treats the villain and that Bane treats the villain that shows no special treatment whatsoever for somebody in that sort of situation. And it sort of seems, interesting and odd to me, the way that they treat them. It's sort of like, I don't know, how would I put it? I don't know why it stood out for me so much. I guess it's sort of like we think of somebody with a physical handicap as not being able to function, and yet if this person has a superior intellect and is able to do all these devious things without needing arms and legs and things like that, who's to say, does that not bring them back on par to whatever? I don't know. I guess it's what you value as well. Way too much thought for one comic book starring Bane and Batman. But that's how I am. A lot of times I'll read a comic book and then I'll just sit there and I'll think about it and I'll be, there's a lot of different things about this comic that, just brings to light ideas and things about how you treat the world and people around you and stuff. And I know it's just pretty pictures. So number one this week is a comic that I probably won't have a lot to say about it right now, just because I've been telling you to get this comic book. So if you haven't gotten it at this point, I don't know what to do. We're on issue 5, and it is Extremity. Extremity is the number one comic this time. It's just so it's well written. The art is, I have to show you a picture, of course. The art is fantastic. What's his name? Daniel Warren Johnson is just amazing. He's got this great idea going on. He's great at the world building. His characterization is on point. It's on fleek. Here's a really cool picture. We've seen stuff like this before, but we haven't for a really long time. And if you look, it's sort of a map of the headquarters. And the one character down here has drawn a picture for her father up here. And so we get to watch the character go through the building up to where her father's at. I mean, little things like that. It's not really little, but it's things like that a lot of other artists aren't bothering to do in their art nowadays. And it's just so like, you open up a page like that and you're just, gasping. It's just like, it's so amazing. His art is beautiful. There's a lot of carnage in here. There's this wonderful robot character named Shiloh that he just really did some great, amazing emotional beats in, which, sometimes it's interesting to see what characters you get attached to. And when you can pinpoint the moment where it's like, oh my God, I care about that character now. I thought this was just a comic book, and now I want to know what's going to happen to this character because they, hit me in an emotional spot and such. And in this issue, one of the interesting things about it, the cover is a really good one because it's the main character and her father, and this is the character who if you haven't read it yet, basically she's an artist who's lost her hand, and how is she going to deal with the world the way it is when it's just kind of warlike and tribe-like and tribe against tribe, and that's how her father lives. When you're really just a gentle soul, so this issue basically goes into a sort of more in depth with the father and sort of showing his, duality as far as, his kindness towards his own tribe and his own children, but how vicious he can be towards other people that he feels have affronted him. And then, what kind of person does she want to be? Does she want to be more like that, or is she trying to find her own true self within all that? And it's been an amazing read. I hope this lasts for a really, really long time. Or if Daniel Warren Johnson has a really good ending in mind, maybe 12 issues is good for this. But it's been really amazing. Kudos to him and kudos to them. And I really think this should be on this year's, Best New Comics series for sure. Extremity. I've loved every issue of it. So now I have two new number ones that I'm reading, so these are just suggestions for you. The first one, of course, I like my all ages comics, and I took a chance and I got Casper the Friendly Ghost. And if you're old like me, then this makes sense. If you're young and you don't know who Casper is, don't get this comic. But it's got all the other fun characters in it that we all know and love, like Wendy and Hot Stuff, and it's half new material, half old material, and it really stands up. One of my favorite things about Casper the Friendly Ghost, for those people who remember it, is that Casper is friendly. He's really just trying to find a friend, because most people are scared of ghosts. And he often runs into characters, or kids often, or people who are able to see him for his friendliness. Not so much for what he is, but for his friendliness, right? And it's usually through the course of an episode or a story that some other influence will come in and point out Casper and say, that's a ghost, you're supposed to be afraid, run away. And often he'd lose a friend and then he'd have to be, go off onto his next journey after that. Which is sort of sad, but it was just interesting to me, this idea that often, we don't know to hate or to, not like, or whatever you want to call it, until we're told to. Often if we're allowed the chance to get to know somebody on our own, uninhibited, we generally, find things that we like about that person or this thing, It's only when someone else tells you, no, you're not supposed to like that. You're not to be, why are you reading an all ages comic? You're not supposed to like that. You're old. You're an old lady. And then we start to act out, in a societal way, like, oh, okay, well, I guess if I'm this, I'm supposed to like that. I guess if I'm this, I'm supposed to hate that. So that's kind of one of the lessons in Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's not just Casper the Ghost, it's Casper the Friendly Ghost. And so, his ability to go through rejection has always been admirable to me. I've always admired that quality in Casper. And I guess that's part of why I got this, you know. And puns in this and jokes in this, just, you know, it's just a feel good. What's wrong with a feel good every so often, you know? Casper the Friendly Ghost. That was the one of the number ones I got. The other one I got is very interesting, and I hope someone else is reading this. If you're reading this, leave a comment because I want to know what your thoughts about it are. It's Centipede. Centipede has a comic. So again, let's go back to, as you know, one of the running themes is I'll buy anything. Atari and Dynamite have hooked up, and they are doing comics based on games and such properties. Whatever Atari owns, I guess Dynamite gets to use. And this is Centipede, the comic. Now, if you love Centipede, the game, I think you're going to like this comic. I've only read this issue, of course, because there's only one issue so far. But the theme of it is that we are inside the game. We're getting a storyline of the game. Now, there was a different storyline to Centipede way back in the day where a mini comic was published with the game about an imp or an elf or something like that who had mushroom friends who were being turned into mushrooms and blah, 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 blah. Forget all that. This is a whole new direction for Centipede. And basically what it is that the world has been taken over, invaded more to say, by these centipede creatures. And there's only one person left, that we know of anyways, and that he knows of, to fight them. And he has an idea of what he wants to do. It's not quite clear in the comic just yet, but he has an idea of what he's going to do to bring them down. So what he needs to do is he kind of has to come out into the environment and draw them, because he's pretty sure that somehow they've got a sensor to find humans and destroy them. Like somehow they just innately, whatever, smell us or whatever it is. So the comic is him basically going from place to place trying to find a centipede to come down so he can destroy it, right? Just like in the game, they come down. And there's a lot of different elements from the game that are shown in the art and in the comic in here. But the thing that I really enjoyed the most about this, the way it's being written, is that he, the main character, is talking to us, the reader. We're in there with him. And he refers to us very often. He talks to us about how he needs us or wants us to be part of the process of what's going on. So that to me is interesting, and it's fun because, you know, you could think, well, is it just him talking to himself? Therefore, we're watching someone who go crazy? Or is he actually talking to us? Is he actually trying to get us drawn into what's going on here? So there's a little, you know, that kind of fun play it has made the title interesting, I think. I definitely want to keep getting this one. And the other thing is that he's not like a superhero. He's not a hero at all. He's almost like somehow I ended up being the last person. How'd that end up? You know, I'm not a super genius or anything like that, but I think I've got an idea to kill these buggies. And he's almost like he's not even, his mindset isn't even sort of like, I have to save the world. It's sort of like, I'd be happy with just a blaze of glory. Like, I get that there's no hope in this situation. We're all gonna die. And if I'm the last one, I want my death to mean something. I guess that's kind of what he's trying to say. I want it to have meant something. So it's only the first issue, so I'm not sure if, you know, he has any thoughts beyond, you know, like, I want to try to save something. It just seems more like I want to make sure that if I have to go, I'm taking somebody with me. And hopefully it's a large centipede. Size matters. Sorry, it's true. So those are the comics that I'm suggesting for you. If it's hot where you are, you may want to just stay inside the air conditioning and read some comic books. You couldn't do worse than these 7 comics that I picked for you. If you've read any of them, please leave a comment, because that's what you're supposed to say on a YouTube channel, right? When you leave a video or something, leave a comment, subscribe, because it's nice when somebody does, and I really do want to, like, you know, hear what other people's questions are about some of these titles and ask some more of my own. So until next time, just stay cool.